Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? I am super excited about today's guest is Cassidy and Matt from Abundant Couples, and we are going to talk about conscious relationships, what it means to be in a thriving relationship. But before we dive into that, I want to ask you, Cassidy and Matt, what does abundance mean to you?
Well, for us, abundance is first and foremost a state of being. It really starts in the mind, and it starts with how you feel. And it's really about getting to know the infinite part of yourself and practicing living from that place. And then your life becomes an expression of that infinite place within you.
Yeah, and it's really knowing that we all have that capacity at all times, that we can choose to be in that abundant state. And when we practice and embody that, then things in the outside world are just really a reflection of that. And so it's just that confidence that we have the ability to create whatever we want, and we're in the driver's seat of that change.
I love it. I love it. So tell us about you. Who is Cassidy and Matt? I'm so excited to dive into your story because it's so interesting, but I will let you introduce yourselves and give a little background history to our audience.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have been together for 11 and a half years now.
Mm-hmm.
We met on the high school bus, and that's where it all started. And basically we're partners in life, in business, in really everything that we do.
We've always kind of been go-getters in everything that we ever go for. And at one point we got the opportunity to run our own business through a great program called Student Works Painting. So really what it did is it took university kids, which we were at the time, and showed us how to run our own business through the experience of a painting business. So we did that, and we were really quite successful with that and had a lot of fun and met a lot of really great people. And we kind of got to the point where we realized that we were kind of going down the path that society kind of places in front of you, like go to school, get a good job, work. And we're like, wait a sec, there's got to be a better way than this. And we've always been adventurous people as well. So while we were doing this, we were also taking a lot of trips, and we had just gone on a 6-month bicycle adventure all around California and southern states, which was a lot of fun. But it became really clear to us that if we had kept going down the same thing that we were doing, we would always get the same results we always had. And for us, it was that contrast between having time or having money. And it was that became really clear to us when we were working really hard, crushed it with our painting business, had all this money, but then like no free time. And then we decided to go traveling and then go have all these adventures. And it was great. We had all the free time, but then the money kind of went down. We're like, oh, there's got to be a better way where we can get the best of all of it. And that's what led us into investing in real estate. So we saw that as part of our path to abundance, that in the long-term plan, we want to be somebody who has really great knowledge and experience of being able to bring people together and create lots of wealth. So that's what we decided to study and go head on into for the last, it's been like seven years now. And so in terms of actually running a business, that's been our main business over the last little while, has been bringing together great groups of investors, finding some properties that need some love, and then fixing them up, and in doing so, creating abundance for everybody.
And then one of our big goals through real estate investing was be able to have the freedom to work on what we're really passionate about without having to have the money guide our decisions and guide our actions. And so what we've been really passionate about recently has been coaching couples and, teaching how to create an amazing life together, how to thrive together, how to really support each other in becoming the best versions of yourselves.
And that's how the podcast came about. It's a Abundant Couples podcast, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the inspiration for that?
Actually, in the painting business, way back when, we had some really great friends, and all the top people from across Canada went on a reward trip. And so we were down in Mexico with some people and just talking about our relationship, and they had some questions about things. And somebody told us one time, you know what, you guys should write a book. They gained like a lot of wisdom from whatever it is we were talking about at the time. And that was like 8 years ago, and it's always kind of like been in the back of our mind, like, oh yeah, we do, we know that we have something really special with our love and what we're able to really do together. So it's just kind of built from there over the years.
Yeah, more recently we've had a few other friends give us nudges and just say, you should really be sharing this stuff.
Why aren't you coaching already?
Yeah. So it's been that kind of like nudge from the universe to like, hey, this is something that you have the capacity to share with others, to help others create, beautiful love, beautiful relationships in their lives. Go do it. So just answering that call. Mm-hmm.
I love it. So before we dive into the juicy questions, I have to ask like 2 random questions. So one, is your necklace a Shungite crystal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Cass got that for me. Yeah.
And it's the triangle, the symbol of masculine divine energy.
I love it. And then I want to know your signs, because so M&Ms, if you are listening and you're not able to see the video, their eye contact, how they're looking at each other, you can tell the love at how they look at each other. So I'd love to know both of your signs.
I am a Leo, very much Leo.
Yes. And I'm a Taurus. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. 2 very strong signs. So we'll get into masculine and feminine in a moment. But first, I want to ask you, what does an abundant couple mean to you?
Yeah, an abundant couple is really a couple where both partners are so committed to their own growth and 100% in support of their partner's growth. So it's not about the idea of, like you complete me, you make me whole. No, it's that I am discovering the wholeness within myself and supporting you to do the same. And when we do that, we both grow in love and in a really beautiful way. So there's that. And then from that place, with that as the foundation of growth and support, from there, it's about being able to really create a vision together and to have a practice of creating the things in your life that you love. And when you do that together with that foundation of love, it's really a magical combination, a huge synergy that happens. And that's what abundant couples do.
I love it. So that's very similar to my definition of a conscious relationship. So 2 people that are committed to their own personal growth and hold space for the growth of their partner. So it's pretty much the same thing, right? Just different verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what would you say is the reason why most people are not thriving in a relationship?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I would say, well, probably the number one thing that gets in the way of a love connection, it's a moment to moment to moment to moment thing, because love is always present, right? Love is infinite. It's always present. You always have the ability to connect to it and with another person. And what gets in the way of that are really just our beliefs, our thoughts, the thoughts that we're believing, our own judgments or criticisms of ourself or others. And sometimes these are more obvious, but so many times they're really subtle and not obvious.
And that's the work too, is discovering that really in any kind of development that you go down, whether it's personally or in a relationship, like getting closer to that center is really just removing the distractions, the limiting beliefs. It's not necessarily going to get something, but just recognizing that we all have that power to tap into it And when we do certain things, we set up our days or our habits or our life in a certain way, it just kind of allows for that more and more. So I'd say, yeah, really finding the things that aren't working and then installing great habits that just naturally evoke the love way more often than regular.
I love it. So I know we talk about removing blocks a lot on this podcast, but if someone's tuning in for the very first time and they're like, okay, I hear what they're saying, but I don't know what that means. So take us through like a process of like identifying a problem, and then how could they go about removing a block or issue in a relationship?
Yeah. So I like to think about communication in relating as probably about 80% internal with yourself and then only about 20% with the other person. Because when there's a block there in the relationship, you really need to go to yourself first, look within first. But at the same time, I want to say that it's important to also share that process with your partner. So I really love Byron Katie's process of inquiry, the work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the go-to for me, and we use it a bunch in our relationship. Because what I notice is that anytime I'm feeling anything other than just great, it's because I'm believing something that is arguing with reality, as she says. So the first process is just to notice the feeling that isn't wonderful. That's the very first thing, right? To be able to step in between stimulus and response, right? To notice, oh, hey, I'm feeling not fantastic right now. And rather than just responding automatically, being able to catch yourself right there and pause and go, okay, let me investigate this a little bit.
And it's really usually times that we're not present when these things kind of come up, because there's a really great distinction. You can have the presence or your old programming kind of kick in, and it's usually times that we're not present where that programming is. So it's being able to recognize that, take that step back and say, okay, this isn't ideal. Let's put a word to it, and from there be able to discover and start turning that around.
Yeah, so once we've noticed, okay, something doesn't feel great here, let me see, what am I feeling and what am I primarily believing right now? Maybe I'm believing like, oh, he should listen to me. And then we go through that process of just questioning our thoughts, questioning our beliefs. Is that true? These are the questions that Byron Katie teaches. Is that true? Can I absolutely know that that's true, that he should listen to me? Well, no, because he isn't listening to me. And that's the reality. So anything other than that can't be true, right? And then the most powerful part, once you've kind of, gotten clear about how do I feel when I'm believing something that's just not true, and how would it feel if I wasn't believing that, the most powerful part is then turning it around and looking at the opposite belief. He should listen to me. Okay, let's turn that around. I should listen to me. Well, that's true. I got to be present with me. And then the other way to turn that around, I should listen to him. Okay, as I'm standing here thinking that he should listen to me, I'm actually not listening to him. So that process has been so transformative. That's just one of the processes. We find that having like a toolkit of different processes, different frameworks that we can use in any given situation is really key to keeping that connection. Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree. I actually did an episode on Byron Katie's The Work because I found it so extremely powerful. So I'm a huge, huge advocate for those questions, the 4 questions that she says to ask yourself when you find yourself in that situation. So I know you mentioned programming, and obviously we talk about that a lot on the podcast, updating your belief system. So you said that you met in high school. I know this is a little bit of a personal question, but what was your parents like your relationship, not with your parents, but your parents' relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So both of us come from really loving families, which we're really, really grateful for. I think with, I it's a funny kind of development that we go through as humans, where like up till a certain age of like 6 or 8, our parents are basically everything and we depend on them for survival. And that's when we take in a lot of those programming. And then after a certain point, we realize, oh, they're not perfect. Here's all the things that I, like, and here's all the things I don't like. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really great things we can take away, at least for me, from my parents. But there were certain things that I saw that kind of came up where I'm like, okay, in our relationship, this is a very strong possibility that if we don't address this, like, just little squabbles over things that don't really matter that much, or arguing about money, or getting stressed about a certain situation. And so as proactive thinkers and planners, we're like, okay, how do we set things up such that that's not going to be a problem or even a possibility for us?
In my family, I mean, my parents, wonderful, they're wonderful parents, but there are definitely some challenges with my dad, with some anger. And so that was a big struggle in our family, and caused some divide between my parents for sure. Yeah. And similarly to what Matt said, there was also tension around money. We didn't hear a lot of conversations about money, and the ones we did hear were not positive. And I actually remember when in the early stages of our relationship, when we were both still living at home, because we started dating when we were 16, I remember we actually started a notebook page of things we'll do differently from our parents.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's fun.
We should find that.
Yeah,
And we
good.
just like, okay, what do we see, instead of like just complaining about our parents? What do we see in them that's great? Let's do that. What do we see in them that's not so fantastic? And we know that because we came from them, we're very likely to repeat those patterns if we don't consciously start to change them now.
And also just in our own research, we saw, okay, money and intimacy are like some of the biggest things that couples struggle with. Like if you're looking at causes and things, we're like, okay, wait, those are the things that get in the way for most people. Let's just plan and be on the same team on these things such that they are now our superpowers rather than things that can, cause divide. So it was just a very conscious decision to master these areas so that, we could just have that abundant life.
I love it. I love it. The reason why I asked about the parents, a lot of it, if you come from a family where the mom and dad is still together, you can model a lot of what you saw. But for people who may have had like an absent dad, or their parents got divorced, they don't have that example of what a healthy relationship looks like. So they have to establish that value system almost on their own, of like, this is what a healthy relationship looks like to me, if they've never actually seen it or experienced it. So for someone who hasn't come from that model, that healthy model, what is maybe a couple of things to know that you are, well, I guess you should, I want to say you aren't in a relationship or aren't in a healthy relationship, so they can pinpoint it, and then ways they can work towards being in a healthy relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I would say for some of like I guess almost like red flags, you could say. Any, of course we all have our moments.
Right.
So it's not to say that any one of these things alone is like, oh no, bad relationship, run. There's always the ability to improve and to grow, and we all have our bad moments. But if there's a large amount of like criticism and blame and judgment, like a large amount of basically receiving the feeling that you're not enough or not good, or that you're doing something wrong a lot of the time, any of those feelings of like being put down, it just really has no place in a relationship. We're here to lift each other up, to be each other's support. So any like a large amount of those feelings is definitely something you don't want.
Yeah. And in terms of finding what you do want, I think that's really one of the most important questions that we have the power to ask ourselves. in really any moment is, what do I want? What do I want in a relationship, and what do I want for my life? And in fact, way back when, before we even met, I watched The Secret, as I think I was in like grade 8 or something. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Taking all these notes and starting to apply this. Okay, just visualize, just be with the person that you really feel that love. And then like really getting clear on, this is the kind of relationship I want. This is the kind of feelings I'd like to cultivate and kind of gifts I'd like to bring to the relationship. And then when you're clear on that, then it was almost like, I don't know, like fate or whatever you call it, that all the dominoes just started lining up. And then it was like, oh, I saw her picture. I just moved to a new city and didn't really know anybody. I made a new friend, and he was showing me where all the girls were going to high school. And then I just saw Cass's picture, and I was like, you know what? I want to go where she's going. I don't know why. I'm just going to follow my intuition here. And then he sat down next to me on the school bus, and then we became really good friends. But it all kind of started with that intention of, I want really just such a soulful, amazing relationship. And then I was presented with Cass, and it was just like perfect. So by asking, what do we want, and then being really almost confident, but like feeling like we can get that which we ask for, like we deserve to be happy. In going for that, I think that's a really powerful tool. As they say, wave a magic wand, just ask for it and just believe that we can have it.
Yeah, and this goes for whether you're currently already in a relationship or whether you're not in a relationship. Either way, if you're not in a relationship right now, getting really clear about the kind of relationship you want to create is really powerful. But also, if you're in a relationship, and this is something that we do regularly, we have a great relationship, and we know that it can always become even more amazing
in all areas.
So we regularly sit down and go, okay, what do we want for our relationship? How do we want to feel in our relationship? What do we want to experience together? What are some goals we have together? And just on a regular basis, asking those kind of questions, that kind of becomes your guiding star in the relationship to be, guiding you in the right direction.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So I love that you plan together, and you mentioned money being a superpower. And I know that money is the number one reason for divorce or issues in a relationship. So how can someone allow money to be their superpower versus being something that tears the relationship apart?
Yeah, I think it starts the foundation is creating positive associations with money. And
because growing up, at least for us, we didn't have as many positive associations as negative ones. Usually when money came up in the household, there was some sort of, kind of stress or attachment to that. So yeah, one of the first things was realizing that, oh, that happened. Like we went to Millionaire Mind Experience, and they talked about discovering your limiting beliefs or your blueprints around it. And what I found was one of the ones that came up for me was money equals stress, because stressful conversations, money. And so we actually, in our painting business, went and made a whole lot of money, put it to good use other places, but at the same time, we had it, and then super stressed because I was running a business and all these things first year and all that. And then I was like, subconsciously decided to, get rid of the money to reduce the stress. And it was like, oh, that's not a very empowering belief that money is stress. Let's change that. Let's put a spotlight to that, and now consciously work in the other direction. And sometimes it's acting as if before it actually becomes reality. So, I'm a millionaire mind. I'm an excellent money manager. I always pay myself first. All these, affirmations is one of the things that we did. But when we do that, then we're able to see where we are objectively and what it's going to take to move out of that. So I'd say like 80% of abundance, and when it comes to money, is psychological, and developing good beliefs around it And every time that we do anything with money now, it's, gratitude. It's, oh, thank you. It's, we've got a whole fun abundance banking system where we've got all of our different savings accounts for everything that we're manifesting. And every time we're transferring money in there, it's like, oh yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, we are manifesting this Tesla. And oh yeah, we're, putting these positive, life affirming associations to the abundance that we have versus, worrying about money.
Yeah. And there's the upward spiral, like saying 80% is, psychological. Yes. And then when you take the actions, when you go, what would an abundant person do? And you take those actions, then it reaffirms that identity of yourself as that abundant person. So then the action feeds the psychology, and that creates this upward spiral. So Matt was mentioning our banking system. When we first set that up, we didn't have a ton of money to be divvying up into different bank accounts. We were supposed to be saving a certain percent, and we went from saving 0% to then let's just save 2%, because just that action alone, like we're basically proving through our actions that we're worthy of more money coming into our lives because we are responsibly handling it. So we just gradually started increasing that from 2% to 5% to 10%. Now we're saving about 30% or so of our income. But it starts with that first 1 or 2%, reaffirming that identity to yourself. Like, I am an excellent money manager and I am an abundant person.
That's actually a affirmation. Excuse me. That's an affirmation that I actually say. So I love that you say that. So I just want to reflect back some of the things that I hear. So getting really clear on your beliefs. And one of the reasons why I ask the questions is I want people to know that even if you come from what some people consider as a broken family, or you had an absent dad, or even an absent mom, you still can work towards an abundant relationship, a conscious relationship. So it's getting really clear on your beliefs and then discussing what you want with your partner. So I love that you two discuss your goals together, how you want to feel in a relationship. That's really important. I think communication is the foundation to every relationship. So really holding that space is important. And then establishing good beliefs. So if you know that you have a negative association with money, with marriage, with anything related to the relationship, you can shift that and create positive associations. And using Byron Katie's The Work is also really powerful if you want to start to work to shifting those beliefs. So that is what I got out of everything that you've said so far. There is, and I like the question, what would an abundant person do? So M&Ms, make sure you write that down. What would an abundant person do? Start to ask yourself this question. If you're making a decision, would an abundant person do this? How would they handle the situation? And really reflect on that question. So one of the last things I want to ask about is masculine and feminine. So I know you mentioned his Shungite is the symbol of masculinity. And I know that there are a lot of stereotypes around masculine and feminine, what a woman is supposed to do or be like in a relationship. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So I guess the first thing I want to say when we get into the conversation about masculine and feminine energy is that it really is this continuum, and we both have both aspects within us at all times. We both have masculine and feminine qualities and energy within us. And in any moment, we can choose to express more of our femininity or more of our masculinity. So it's not so much associated with our cultural male and female stereotypes. It's more the quality of the energy. So how we associate masculine and feminine energy, the feminine is the energy of release, surrender, flow, creation.
And the masculine is the consciousness, presence. There's this really great analogy that, in terms of like a river, the masculine is the riverbanks with the direction and providing the the guidance, and the feminine is the water.
That flows through, expresses. Yeah, so that's how we really think about masculine and feminine. And for me, I had to work a lot on, you know, being able to express my femininity more often, because as an entrepreneur, I have to use my masculine strength and direction and focus, those kinds of qualities. I have to use those often. So I have to consciously also cultivate the feminine energy, and especially within our relationship. And this has been really powerful for us with our sexuality as well. Like when it comes to intimacy, being able to cultivate the polarity of the masculine and feminine energies really creates magical experiences.
What do you do for energetic self-care? Life challenges us. However, we have tools to help us navigate the transitions, release trapped emotions, maintain positive energy, and expand to allow more joy and excitement. Abundant and Aligned Society is an energetic self-care accountability program that helps you go from stress and anxiety, fight or flight, to operating from a place of abundance and alignment. Go to niajae.com/society for more information and start vibrating higher. As an entrepreneur, I know that like for female entrepreneurs, we are in our masculine a lot. So we have to consciously tap into that feminine energy. So for a man men usually are naturally in their masculine. Do you have to consciously tap into your feminine energy in a sense of, surrendering or release or expressing emotions? I feel like society almost looks down, and when I say society, like typical, like non-conscious, like people that are doing inner work, they tell a man like men shouldn't cry, like they have to suppress their emotions. So can you speak to that if there's a man that's like, I don't know how to tap into my feminine energy?
Yeah. Yeah. One of our teachers that I really look up to in this realm of things is David Dieta, and he has a whole wide array of knowledge and teachings around this. And something that's coming up for me is he talks about the 3 stages of both a relationship and then also individually for men and female. He talks about first stage is that, kind of the toxic masculinity where it's, rah, I'm tough, it's got to be my way, it's this, it's like, as he talks about it in a relationship, it's like, okay, the guy has money and the girl has beauty. And it's like, that's kind of a first stage where it's like kind of surface level. Second stage is more of that balancing, is being able to tap into and reflect and embody those feminine aspects, because there really is a place for all of that with men, and to be able to recognize, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is, it's okay to relax and not be go, go, go all the time. To be able to, it's kind of almost like, I think he talks about it like hippies. It's like the hippie movement was really good in bringing out the second stage masculine. It's like, oh yeah, life is just flowing and beautiful. And a lot of people can get there. And I think we were there. And that was when there's a little bit of like a flat line in our relationship, and our intimacy was kind of, as he would call it, that second stage of, okay, it's more kind of balanced masculine feminine, like
we were both pretty balanced in our masculine and feminine, so there's not a lot of polarity there.
There's a really good
in the
friendship and love, but yeah, that spark kind of goes away if you stay in that too long. So that's when we started discovering the third stage of like the embodiedness of all of that, but from a kind of more of that pure form of masculinity, of consciousness and direction, and kind of just being present, really, and being able to tap into all different aspects of it, masculine, feminine, but choosing to consciously show up in this moment or this relationship, or in bed as the masculine partner, because then that kind of brings out and allows space for the feminine to really flourish as well.
And how have you cultivated your femininity more? How do you tap into that part of yourself?
Ooh, good question. I really love to walk in nature, walk, a little bit hippie, walk barefoot in the woods, love playing music. And yeah, I definitely like to kind of tap into my feminine moments at times.
Yeah, I've noticed over time, like you've spent more time with just blank space, like having a whole free day to just kind of follow your intuition. That's something that I've noticed you've developed a lot over the last several years, is like trusting your intuition and
That's
just kind
a really
of
big gift,
being
yeah.
able to follow that and giving yourself hours and days where you can just follow that. And I think that's probably some of that element of the feminine coming through in those. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right. So my last question is, what are your top 3 tips for living an abundant life?
Ooh.
Okay. Top 3 tips.
I'm going to put one of them out there. I'm going to say develop amazing habits, because that's really what's going to, like, an amazing life is made up of amazing years, which is made up of amazing weeks, amazing days. So if you want an amazing life, have an amazing day today. And the way to make sure that that shows up consistently is by having really awesome habits. I don't know how many we have right now, but a good half of our day is just like automatic habits that are awesome and life affirming for us, starting from the moment we wake up. And then we've got like our whole AM bookends and then our PM bookends. So filling those with really amazing habits is big. So,
yeah. It's Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do." Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And we've really been trying to live that as much as possible. Anything that we want to create in the future, we look at, okay, what does that mean we need to be today? And then what habits do we need to install such that we are being that person that will create that thing in the future? Because I think sometimes people think about creating something in the future as being like, okay, I'm going to get ready, and then it's just going to happen. But no, it starts with one thing you do today, and then it's consistency. So important. Actually, that might be number 2, is the number 2 thing for living an abundant life is consistency. We have our coach, Brian Johnson at Optimize. He's fantastic. He created this, he calls it the soul force equation. But basically what it is time times focus, your ability to focus, times what's important now. And then all of that to the exponent of consistency. So what this shows us is, even if you aren't spending a huge amount of time doing the very best work you can possibly do with the most amount of focus, if you do it consistently, that's the most important thing. But if you're just showing up once in a while to do your best work and to give your best to the relationship, really in any area, if you're just showing up powerfully once in a while, then it doesn't have the same power. Like, consistency is really the magic sauce.
Because that really grows into momentum. And once you have that positive momentum, there's really no limit to what you can do. You see that pretty clearly with investing, the power of compounding, how it slowly does that. And you do that same thing in any area, whether it be health, intimacy, adventure, freedom. If you just do that day in, day out, through positive habits, through seeing where you're going and applying that consistently, then yeah, you create a pretty abundant life.
And I would say number 3 is to never stop growing, never stop learning. Like, it's really a law of nature that everything is always either growing or dying. And growth is really when we feel most fully alive, and it's through growth that we become more fully ourselves, and where we tap into our most creative power, which then allows us to live our most abundant life and to create the most flourishing relationship. So always, always, always be growing, simultaneously growing and accepting yourself as you are right now with total love and gratitude.
Oh my goodness. I love it so much. Like, I have a total couple crush on you guys. So amazing. Like, I'm so happy. Just the energy you two share is really, really amazing. And I'm a huge person for power couples. So anytime I see it and I can experience it, I'm just like, yes, we need more of that in this world. Yeah.
Yes.
So where can people find you online?
On Instagram, you can find us at Abundant Couples, and our website is abundantcouples.com.
Awesome. So I will have all of the links in the show notes so people can follow you on Instagram and go to your website, and definitely check out their podcast as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and just keep spreading this word of abundant couples and conscious relationships, because I feel like people need it. And it just, you're like a breath of fresh air to me. So I love everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thanks for having us. It was great talking with you.
Of course. All right, M&Ms, until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.